Yo, who gets the opening act at SummerStrong? Woo! You guys nervous? I'm not. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. This is a big deal to me. Oh, fuck, lost it already. It's a big deal. I used to spend hours in front of Bert and his dad's booth at NSCA, watching people try to pick that dumbbell up and having no success at all. It was a huge influence. There's also some, God, I made it less time than you did. He got me in the wrong state here. There's somebody here that I need to publicly thank that I've never had the chance to do. Somebody that changed my life. He has no idea that he did that. He doesn't have any idea who I am, but I needed to publicly thank Bill Gillespie. He changed my life and he has no idea. I'll save this story, but the quick version of it is, I was completely out of my lane when I was a young kid. I asked Bill, he's at the University of Washington, hey, can I come up? I want to be a strength coach for the University of Washington. He's like, sure, kid. And I show up, and not exactly what a Division I football strength coach looks like. And he was so kind, first of all, he let me come up. He talked to me. He was like, I'm going to be training. You can be around. I'm not going to waste my time. He puts his mouthpiece in. He's going, and I'm just asking him the most ridiculous questions. Like horrific questions. And finally, he turned and looked at me and was like, hey, bud, you're a dime a dozen. You're never going to make it. And it was the most love I'd ever felt in my life. I'm serious. Like, I was not offended. I knew exactly what he meant. He's like, you have no skills. Why would you be a Division I strength coach? Why would you be coaching people at this level when you're at this level? And I got all those words. Now, he probably just meant fuck off, like, get out of here, kid. But at least that's how I interpreted it, Bill. And it was a huge, huge, huge lesson for me. And again, thank you so much. I owe you my career. As I mentioned, I've known Bert for over 20 years. He's known me for about a year. But for real, like, this is everything that I think the field should be. First of all, whenever you get to show up and give a presentation for my job and I get to do it in shorts and a hat, like, that's a damn good day, right? This is my culture. This is where I want to be. And it took a lot to get this worked out. I wanted to speak here. I wanted to be here for years. A lot of things had to fall in the right place, including, like I said, I've known Bert for 20. He's known me for a couple, so he had to finally let go of that restraining order. And anyways, long story short, we're here. He let me get up on stage, and I really appreciate it. So as Bert royally screwed up, I'm a little bit of both of all of you. So I am a professor. I'm the executive director at Parker University. I'm also a coach. I work directly with professional athletes in every major sport and organization. And so I can speak a little bit of language in both these areas. And I know that when I think of strength, when I think of training, this is what I think of, right? This is a weight room to me. Thank you, Zach. I don't know where you went. I stole this picture from Zach. Zach Gavadesh was hanging out over here a second ago. Where he is? Where'd he go? Did he leave already? Oh, my talk comes up and he bolts. Perfect. But this is what I think of, and for better or worse, this is what now these things start to look like, right? And so there's always been this progression of, hey, strength and conditioning is iron and this in front of me, right? This gold bar. But then it's also this advance of technology. And for better or worse, like it or not, this is a part of your life, and it's a part of your life that's coming faster than you've ever had to deal with before. We had the ability as strength coaches, honestly, for a long time to kind of bury our heads in the sand and just be like, as long as I train, as long as I'm on the floor, I don't have to worry about this stuff. You can't get away with that anymore. And you're not going to be able to get away with it for very much longer because of how fast technology is accelerating. And so we don't need to jump to that stuff only. I'm not going to make that argument. I still want you on the floor coaching at all times. Right? That's your core competency and skill. But we at least need to be somewhat fluid in this language of technology to understand what a changing environment we're coming up in, what we're developing our young coaches and our staffs in, and what we're exposing our athletes to. And so this is one of my favorite examples, right? It wasn't that long ago when something like a force plate, like, oh, that's impractical, it's too expensive, and it's just too hard to use, and I don't even know the value. And how many of you now, in this current moment, use a force plate or something to measure force productivity at some point? How many? Great. It wasn't that long ago when nobody used it, because the technology, this is just not practical, and that's not what you guys can fill in the blanks, right? Coach speak for like, I don't want to deal with this. This is too complicated, right? So it's going to be there. The question is, what is happening right now that you're having that same attitude with, that you're ignoring, that you're not paying attention to, that you're dismissing, and you're just going to be the person left behind because you don't know the basics that everyone else is using in the field. So a little bit of stuff we're going to get into is this, right? For example, you all probably spent $100,000, some of you, I shouldn't say you all, on force plates. And you went from being completely unneeded to absolutely necessary to now there's technology like Axial Force. Axial Force is a full 3D sensor that can live in the shoe, the sole of your shoe. Now, instead of having your athletes coming in and fighting them over doing that vertical jump test once a day, you get force on every single step they take, every warm-up drill, every action they do, their entire day. So now we went from having to have force plates to you don't need them anymore. Save your time and save your money. You can put this directly in every single shoe of every single person, right? In fact, if you want to add kinetics and kinematics to the whole situation, you can add something like Enable. Enable is an automated software that allows you to do something like that. That happens in almost real time, and it's automated. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to go back and write your MATLAB's code and all that stuff. And you just sit there and pull up the thing, and all of a sudden you're getting that kind of information. And guess what the athlete has to do? They got to do nothing else besides perform. There's no suit they have to put on. There's no markers they got to put on, joint angles. This is all gone now. Guess what cameras they have to buy? They don't have to. Put your iPhone up there. You can go off that stuff. As long as it's a high-resolution video, it is camera agnostic. This is not a $200,000 system. This is back-end software. You can see they put some cameras in the corner. So the athlete shows up, does their thing. Strength coach, skill coach shows up, does their thing. And now you get all kinds of data like that. Completely automated. Now you can put kinetics with kinematics if that's your jam, or if it's not, you're there. If you want, you can even take that stuff and build digital twins. And now you're getting all that stuff. So all that time you spent on, okay, let's set the camera up and let's do our range of motion test. Capture every movement they ever do. Automate that, right? It's completely there for you. How many of you are like, oh no, my career's over? What is happening right now? I just wanted to learn a new warm-up drill or something and go home next week. I get it, it's overwhelming. I'm going to intentionally try to start this weekend off by overwhelming you. That's my goal, the next 40 minutes or whatever, how much time I got. Right? I want you to see and think and start to believe what can possibly happen. And then maybe you go home and one or two things that I talked about landed with you. If you think you're going to walk out of here and get everything that I just pulled up, you're out of your mind. But I'm going to smash you and overwhelm you. I figured, let's start the morning like that, right? Let's just put them in a days where they're like, I'm leaving this career, I don't know what I'm doing. And then you can regress back and wake up Monday and go, oh, I could probably do that and that. Or I can think about this differently. So let the tidal wave ensue. So this is what I'm going to really talk about, human performance, some of the technology and tools and innovations that are here and coming. I'll also give you fair warning. Many of the things I'm going to talk about are not available to you. They're either not out on the market, they're way too expensive for you, but I promise I will give you a handful of things you can all reuse regardless of your budget. That sound good? You're like, I thought that was the technology stuff already. Oh, that was the warm-up, friends. That was the warm-up. So here's what we're going to do. It is my strong position that really ultimately this is what I'll call the future of human performance. No matter what position you're in, if you work with professional athletes or general population, aging individuals, rehabilitation, it really comes down to these 4 criteria. At some point, you're going to do something where you collect personal data on them, right? This might be a questionnaire. This might be body weight. But you're going to collect some information on them. Then from there, we're going to build digital twins and run endless simulation. That first part requires some technology. That second part requires artificial intelligence, which we'll talk about what that stuff is. And then part 3, let's not forget that part. You still have to coach. Right? You can have all the plan in the world, but you have to execute. It has to be high quality, and this is what you all are really talented at. And then the fourth part is you're going to do something to identify and prevent and predict injuries and disastrous turns ahead of time. This is ultimately what it all comes down to. Now, scanning kind of the room and what I know of the Sornex crowd, I kind of gave you some grades. All of you are doing something in the area of number 1, right? Again, whether you're taking body weight. Some of you are using some probably more advanced technologies and other ones, but we can all agree we can probably upgrade in this area, right? What are we using, what are we testing, and how are we working? Are any of you building digital twins and running simulations right now actively for your athletes and clients? Boy, I feel awkward now, right? Great, so we can probably improve there. You're all coaching like crazy. That's great. That's the most important thing by far. And then probably some of you are doing some of this. Any of you like sports scientists or data scientists might be doing some stuff where you're tracking distance covered and time on the field and things like that and trying to say, hey, look, I mean, this is pitch count, right, guys? Don't throw over 100 pitches in a game because injuries increase dramatically after that. Like, you're doing something to monitor and prevent long-term injury. Oh, whoa, that came up weird. But like I said earlier, don't be an ostrich, right? Just because some of this is scary and you don't know it, you can't bury your head in the sand here. You have to at least acknowledge it and see what this field is coming. You can't just revert to, I'm just an in-the-field coach, I don't know all this technology stuff. It's not gonna work much longer. And the reality is because we're in this age that we call the human sensor. There's almost nothing you can't ask that I can't measure directly. And that used to be impossible, and now it's all at the consumer level. You all know how technology speeds and how cheap it gets. I mean, you really can't pick anything that we don't have a third-party validated scientific measure on. And it's something that most of you could probably afford. And so you're just gonna have to be either wary of parents asking for this, administration, GMs asking for this, the players asking for this, consumers asking for it. You need to have some answers besides, I'm just a coach. Like, that's just not gonna fly anymore because they're just gonna leave you to somebody else who's doing it. And so our limitations are no longer, we can't afford that in our budget. Your limitations now are, how do we make sense of these data? Which ones do we choose to use? Which ones are actually making an impact on our programming? That's now the framework of how you decide on which kind of technology you use and which ones you skip. If you're not familiar with this concept, I've dropped a couple of times now, called digital twin. Are any of you familiar with the human digital twin? I know none of you are doing it, but how many of you are like, even know what I'm saying when I say that? Oh, great, we're gonna learn some stuff real fast here, right? Just take a look at that thing in red if you can see that. A couple of years ago, you're talking about a $3 billion market. Now we're over 50 billion. Imagine what that's gonna look like in 2030. You're probably talking about a $1 trillion industry by the time some of you graduate college. The digital twin is all of human health right now. If you look at cardiac rehabilitation, if you look at the immune system and cancer, everything is being pushed towards digital twin. And there's a damn good reason for it. If you're not familiar, it's basically this. Imagine we could take measures at a whole bunch of levels, from genetic to organ to tissue. In our world, maybe that's vertical jump. Maybe that's body composition. Maybe that's limb length, right? Pick anything you want. We throw that into an AI model, and now we can run endless simulations. And I can now predict which supplementation protocol will be more effective for you. I can run 1 million simulations on that, and I can tell you which form of periodization will be better for you. We can tell you what data back off for each one of your individual players in the snap of a finger. If I have their digital phenotype uploaded like that, I can tell you any answer you want. You ask me any question, I can in the snap of a finger come back and say, oh yeah, you're gonna get A, B, and C, and D. That's the power of digital twins. Now tell me how you're gonna compete with somebody who's doing that and you're not. Good luck. You got a few years. At this point, you're all now terrified. You're like, switching to business major, fuck all this. Okay. I mean, this is effectively all we're trying to look at, right? I wanna know everything that's going on your body, in your body, understand how it's all being processed, and then giving me an output. Because we, as coaches, are focused on point number 3, right? How am I looking? How am I feeling? How am I performing? All of you in this room are focusing on those 3 things when you coach. Some of you in different gradients, but that's the reality of it, right? And so how we get coaching as a practice better is we go up that chain. You don't like how you look? You don't like how you're feeling? You don't like how you're performing? However you're defining those? Great. My job is to go up the chain and say, well, why are you feeling that way? Why are we having that limitation? Why are we performing that way? It's gonna be something that has to do with input. What am I eating? How am I training? What am I doing? What's in the physical environment? What's in my water? How that's being processed and metabolized, how I'm managing that emotionally. Whatever processing happens there, that then determines my output, right? And so getting better programs, more precision, is really a game of saying input or processing problem. Fix that, and now watch the outcome change. That's all you really have to do. That's coaching summed up. And so this is what we've been doing with our athletes for a very long time. We've just had to do it the manual way. It's really hard. It's super expensive and laborious. But we're getting to a stage now where we can do things more affordable. Here's an example. This is a project we did last year, and we did this in combination with the HumanWorks team at NASA. And we said, what if we took a whole bunch of information like this on men and women? And we took their wearable data and blood works and cardiometabolic and fill in all the blank. And we put it into a model like this. And we created this thing. Well, here's what happened. Number one, many things, but the one I wanted to share with you is this. You have 3 different athletes here, right? And you can see on the left, athlete number 1. This athlete's risk of injury was extremely tied to the amount of time he spent running at high velocity. How many of you right now track something like high velocity or running or mileage in practice? How many of you track that? Great. If you're working with athlete 1, you're going to save that career. Because you're going to see when he gets to this point, when she gets to this point, injuries start to really fly back up. But look at athlete number 3. Wasn't predictive at all. Told us no information at all about that guy's injuries. So now we have to go back and find, well, what is predictive? Because this guy got hurt a bunch too, athlete number 3. Same amount of injuries. But something else was triggering that injury. And so it allows us really quickly, again, with the snap of a finger, to figure out, hey, we got to go track something else with this guy. We're not going to get this guy off the field because he hit a certain number of mileage, because it didn't matter. If he wants to come off or go off, you get the point here, right? Whether this is how you coach or not, I don't really care. Can you zoom out, though, and think of applications in your life about how this could be helpful? You can see that technology really playing in and being useful. And again, that system is super cheap. This is not some $300,000 system or $30,000 system for that matter. This is not stuff that you just can't ever do. It's incredibly easy to use. Oh, and by the way, we use that system for Swedish World Championships up there, and we were able to predict performance with a 99.7% accuracy. You want to hear it even cooler? Went to the Chicago Marathon, handed some of the coaches a card, an index card, 6 weeks before the race, and predicted also with above 99% accuracy what each individual athlete was going to run their race time in. Go ahead. Try to compete with me. How do you think I sat in first class when you were in third class last night? She was in row 38. I was like, who are you back there? Ma'am, somebody in the back is just really disturbing. Am I going fast enough? Too slow? Speed up. The crowd says go faster, we're going faster. Okay, now, again, remember, I'm trying to intimidate you here a little bit. Scaring you on purpose. This is not as daunting as it seems. Okay? What I think we can do is spend a little bit of our time. I would love to take you all through points 2 and 4. I have no business in this room teaching anybody point number 3. I'm the least qualified person on this stage ever to teach you number 3, but I can teach you a lot about number 1, and so I figured we'd spend the rest of our time going over some of those things. When we think about AI in general, first of all, that means nothing anymore, right? Like your kid's calculator has AI. Like it doesn't mean anything. But if you're talking about things like Grok or GPT or Gemini, how many of you are actively using something like that right now in your work life? Great. How many of you think, I would like to use it, but I really don't know what the heck I'm doing? Great. How many of you are terrified and you're like, I ain't letting that internet know my stuff? It's like my dad's still scared to order stuff on Amazon. It's fine, Dad. Like Elon's not trying to show up to your house and take your credit card and get your pension, I promise.
We all saw Terminator.
Yeah, we all saw Terminator. You're like, Exactly. Look, if Terminator was real or like Transformers, all the equipment in this room is the worst place to ever be. This is all like designed to be robots. Super mobile, like you're the worst. That's what his plan has been in all these years. All of you get your money back. The reality of it is there is a lot of good things you can be using and should be using as a coach with AI. I'm going to show you some of them. There's an infinite list here. But the reality of it is this. Always remember, if you're using AI to reduce non-essential tasks, awesome. At no point should any of you ever use AI at your essential coaching skills. Now, some of you old heads are like, done, not a problem. And a lot of you young bucks are like, shit, my whole online coaching program is all AI programs. I can't argue with you enough how bad of an idea that is. Like, just do not do that. So use AI, use these tools to free up your time. Admin tasks. And one I like to use a lot is converting files. So an athlete sends you something over in an Excel file and you want to make that into a PDF, or the opposite, right? Oh, someone sends you something in a Word file. Hey, throw this into ChatGPT. Hey, will you make this into a table for me? Done. You know how many hours I spent in my life like pulling up one screen, like copy, paste over here. All that time you could have been coaching. You could have been reading. You could have been going to SummerStrong. Right? So use it for little stuff like that. I would probably never have another one of my interns ever learn stats. Ever again. Right? I will never let them, if you're in the private sector, I would never, ever use them to write sales copy or marketing. It is insanely useless. ChatGPT, all that stuff in 10 seconds. Right? Get it all done. Making images. If you are savvy, you do collect a lot of data, and you want to ask it really smart questions about your data. That's really good. It can answer your questions if you know how to ask them. Okay? And some of you are not at that level, that's fine. But there's lots of stuff you can have it do. Where we run into problems is this stuff. Again, as I mentioned, under no circumstances should you be writing training programs by just throwing it into AI. I can share with you 1,000 reasons why, but I hope I don't have to share with you one. Especially if you're younger. Now, do you need to be physically hand typing? No, you can use it to do, again, the typing part, fine. But don't just be like, hey, got a 35-year-old client, wants to lose some fat, here's the stuff, boom, throw me a program. That's what most people are doing, especially online, right? Really, really bad strategy. You also don't want to do this one. See that second bullet point? This is happening constantly. You have a strength coach who's taking MRI images, throwing them into ChatGPT and be like, what do we see in there? Should we have surgery or not? Taking blood work and saying, what do we think about the blood work? That is a horrifically stupid idea. Okay, for so many reasons, that is a really, really, really bad idea. So don't use it for those things. Don't put your sleep data in there. Don't upload your Aura data and say, how many hours of deep sleep do I have in here? Like, stupid. It's not built for those things, and it's not going to be effective, and it's going to be a really bad idea, and I'll share with you a bunch of reasons why. First and foremost, it's because of this. The way that those things work, large language learning models, is they search for the loudest voice in the room. So here's the reality. If I took my training logs and I threw them up on screen here, we could have a lively debate about my training program, and I could leave this room really happy with whatever changes I made. What do you think if I took that exact same data and I threw it across the street into the Starbucks? Say, hey, what do y'all think about my training program? You gonna leave with more confidence or less confidence than you would from this room? Guess what? ChatGPT doesn't search this room. It's searching whoever has the best SEO optimization online, whoever said the most things, what had the most clicks on Reddit. It's not verified expert opinion. So you can't use it for those purposes. Use it for mundane tasks. Do not use it as a barrage of smart or bad idea in an area that requires expertise, right? You feel me on this one? If there was a ChatGPT specifically for Sornex, fine. Throw it in there, right? But it's not. It's just loudest voice in the room, and that's not always the best voice to hear, right? There's a bunch of other things that I'll skip of other sort of bad uses of AI or just advanced technologies. We don't need to get into conversations about synthetic versus real data. Ask me afterwards if you want to talk about that stuff. But number 3 is the big one. Is the model that you're working with and working from built on high-performance athletes? Is it built on general population? Is it built on disease? Well, if you work at Gen Pop's fine. But if you're trying to take something like that and asking for its advice, and you are working with people who are optimizing longevity and want to live for forever, it has no more information on that than if you were asking it about your professional athlete. Right? Those models are built on big numbers of big people, and that does not help us at this individual level. The other thing you want to pay attention to is me versus me. Where we're moving with this human sensor stuff is you being able to create your own unique molecular signature. I don't really care how your force velocity curve stacks up to his. I care about how yours stacks up to you. You feel me on this one? That stuff doesn't pay that attention to it. It just says, oh, like you're in the 33rd percentile. I don't care. Because I have to compete against me at all times. right? I'm always competing against me. That is the biggest thing. And if that stuff doesn't allow you to go you versus you, it's not giving you that much information. And then the last one I've already covered a little bit, but who's interpreting it? And the biggest one, Bo and I were talking about this last night. What do you then do about it? What is the solution? Right? If you're up there and you are the one trying to interpret MRIs, and you're a strength coach, and then you're coming up with a rehabilitation program, you're probably out of your lane just a touch, right? Just the same thing would be true if a physician was doing the opposite, right? It's not that they're better or worse, but you get the point here, right? If you're trying to do the interpretation and programming for an area that you're not a subject matter expertise in, that's SME, right? Subject matter expertise. Why not? Getting this information directly from an expert is cheap and easy now. Go there, right? Any of you remember Athos apparel? Did anyone ever use Athos? Okay, we did the validation study in our lab on them. So Athos was this compression gear that had wearable EMG. So you could wear it and you could hold up your app. Some of you can see that. You could hold it on your phone. And in real time, if I did like an RDL, I could see how much glute activation I was getting, and I could see right versus left, whatever. I could see, oh, I'm using all my hamstring here, no glute activation. In real time, I could watch it, and you could watch the screen, and you could do feedback, right? We used this with Blake Griffin, and he was having glute activation issues, and was just like rolling around, not doing stuff, and finally figured out like one little position. He's like, got some glute activation. Great. They put over 60 million into that, and guess what? How many of you again have used Athos?
Nobody used it, right?
Yeah, they lost 60 million. Why? Phenomenal technology. I still am like, damn, I wish this was around. I still have like 5 suits, but you know why I went out of business? The first 20 people I hired, 19 of them were MIT engineers. No strength coaches, no exercise physiologists, no exercise scientists. So when it came to interpreting the information and then programming a solution, everybody put that stuff on there like, that's a terrible idea. I would never do that after that information. They lost 60 million on great technology. They actually lost more than 60 million, but this is what they report, like way more than 60. All right, so just because it is a good technology does not mean it is a good product. And guess who has the most value and insight on that interpretation, and especially the programming solution part? Let's get you some consulting contracts. Let's go, right? So, a couple of good things we can do with AI. All of you pay attention to nutrition. I don't have to ask you to raise your hands on this one, right? At some point, you say something about nutrition with all your clients and individuals. Is that correct? How many of you have ever done things like a written food log? Great, right? That's super fun. There are better ways. You could do it that way, or some stuff that is coming, and this is not available. This has all been scientifically validated, but it's not available. There are chips now, little inserts you can wear like a mouthpiece, and you can actually put some in as a brace. This will give you real-time analysis of exactly what's consumed in their mouth. The amount, the type, the micronutrient profile. It'll tell you what's in the water, what's in the air, right? If I had that chip in me right now, I could tell you the air quality based on the air going in my mouth. That all gets sent directly back to your cell phone on a quick app. So now tell me about how you can't work with nutrition with your client because like, it's just too hard. For a $20 app, you can do all that. Okay? I told you, you're not gonna be able to make excuses very much longer. Again, not commercially available. This image right here, though, I didn't create that. That is from a peer-reviewed scientific publication. So not only are these made, but these are out in the space in the world, right? Which means they're gonna be in your pockets in months at some point, right? There's also something like Alma. Alma just came out recently. Have any of you played with Alma? Yet, all right, Alma's dope. You can open up your phone and take a picture. Like last night, I could have opened it up and take a picture of that steak, and it would have automatically uploaded and told me macronutrient, and micronutrient profile of that steak. I could also open up, hit the voice button, and say, I had about 3/4 of that steak, and it would automatically adjust. I could take the plate of asparagus that we all shared and say, I had a handful of that thing, and it was blackened with Cajun seasoning, and I'm in here, and this is what, boom, automatically updated. No more having to like send your clients home with that sheet that says, a serving size of protein is your hand. And you just remember that one, like, do this symbol for peanut butter serving size. And you're like, this symbol? Or like, Alma's right now, Alma costs I think $15 a month. Maybe 20, I'm not exactly sure. Something like that. You know what you can also do with it? You can open it up, the refrigerator, and you can take a picture of your refrigerator with all the food in there. And you can say, hey, look, here's my diet program. It's already uploaded. I'm on this many calories and macros. I've got this many calories and macros left. I don't know what to make for dinner. Here's everything in my fridge. Can you not only tell me what to eat, but give me a recipe based on exactly what I have? Because I'm tired of eating steamed broccoli and chicken and rice. Boom. Immediately sent back instructions. Put this in 350, blah, blah, blah. Here's your meal. Don't like this one. Make it more Cajun style. Got it. Here's another recipe. Done. You, as the coach, no longer have to get those texts anymore. Hey, coach, it's 9 o'clock. I'm so bored of chicken. What could I do instead? And you're like Googling recipes and sending them. Done. That's not your expertise time. Your expertise was what should they be eating, when, why, and how. Now let AI come up with different recipes and stuff for them. You can buy this right now. You can open up your phone and buy Alma right now. Right? Again, it's not like 30 years from now and not something that your team can afford. Okay? Another one I like a lot is called Springbok. Now, Springbok is a 3D digital twin you can create with yourself from a basic MRI scan. Okay, it takes about 45 minutes and you can go all arms, all legs, full body extremity. You can do it anywhere. They're actually at the NBA Combine scanning every NBA player right now. Built on athletes and Gen Pop. Depending on how many people you put through it, it can be as low as $200 per person. I don't want to hear the excuses about how you don't have the budget anymore. Some of you are like, we don't have $200. Like, okay, I spent it all on SoreNex, SummerStrong. Budget's gone. But this can be easily done. It can be done anywhere in the US. You don't have to have a fancy machine. And now you can get muscle, body fat, bone density. You don't have to use a DEXA scan ever again. That technology is entirely useless at this point for the most part. Okay? And it looks like this. So you can create these 3D models. You can look at, of course, things like symmetry. What's my right vastus lateralis look like compared to my left vastus lateralis? In exact measurement. We use this a lot with year-by-year changes. So we look at this with our pitchers every single year. We look at every single rotator cuff development year after year after year to start to identify, oh, look, infraspinatus is starting to go down. 4th year in a row, it's shrunk by 3%. Something's happening in our training. We got to adjust what's happening, whatever the case is, right? In the past, we just had to wait for them to blow out their arm and then go back and fix it, right? Oop, shoulder hurts? Okay, now we'll go try to fix stuff. But now we can predict and prevent because we can see that. We got accountability with our training program. You said that corrective exercise is going to work? Did it? Well, now we're going to see, right? Lots of other stuff we can do. Client buy-in. Hey, we got to work in that posterior chain. Got to work in that posterior chain. This is why. You're in the bottom 2nd percentile for glute size. How often are you scanning? At least once a year, sometimes every 6 months, depending if we have issues. Once a year. Competitive athletes, for sure, every year. We just got NFL guys. They're all going through it right now again. Great. Off-season program comes up. We start with Springbok. Right? Baseball guys did it before. Like, we don't, yeah. Any MRI machine can do it. Yeah, so you order the Springbok, and the MRI technician basically pulls it up and goes, Springbok order, blah, 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 blah. You sit through your scan, and you're done. If you really want, and this does cost more, they can bring a mobile MRI machine out to your campus. They'll build it on a trailer. You sit there, you run all your guys and girls through it, 3 days or whatever, and you don't have to send them to a hospital and do all those other things to get to an MRI machine. That's way more expensive, but for sure, it's not that expensive. It's not $100,000 or even close. So we'll do that a lot. Training camp, first day, boom, get it out there, get everybody through, and now you got this kind of information. It's not $5,000 for some random screen anymore. You're talking a few $100, right? Another thing that I am super passionate about that we do in all of our people is this. The reality of it is my PhD is in Human Bioenergetics, so you weren't that far off, Bert, right? And so this molecular side of the equation is what I really specialize in, and we're getting way closer to this stuff actually mattering. I'll be honest, for many, many years, there was just not a lot of information we could get from the molecular side that actually mattered. But that has truly changed. What we can do now with various specimens, blood, urine, stool, saliva, hair samples, is pretty incredible. So take a look at something like this. Now, these are simple kits. We use these a lot with our female clients and female athletes. We can actually get a full 30-day hormone profile of them with an at-home kit, and we get the data in minutes. They go home, take the test, they upload it, and instantaneously we have the results. We don't send it back to a lab. We don't do any of those other barriers to entry. We're not doing full penis draws. We can do this in saliva. We can do this in blood. And we get information back. And now we have a tremendous amount of information about when their ovulation is happening, what their hormone surges are, or whatever the thing is that we're trying to look at or solve. These are pretty expensive at this point. There's a lot of different companies doing them. Hormona is almost, I think they're officially out or going to be out pretty soon. And not all these are great. I'm not advertising any of these companies. Oh, okay, I don't know why that's screwed up, but what you can basically see there is now you can do all that stuff. However, there's a technology that we actually did some of the first work in my lab on about 10 years ago called quantum dots. Quantum dots allow us right now to run blood, but it would be urine, stool, saliva here pretty soon. And we can look up what's called multiplexing. We can look at 30 markers at once in a few minutes. So now you imagine having a little pen in your house. You take a little bite of that pen, and now we instantaneously get testosterone, total testosterone, free testosterone, cortisol, and fill in the blank of any other hormone we want. And you could do that 3 times a day, 5 times a day. I think that pen costs $50 a month, something like that. Not out yet, but it will be out really soon. Quantum dots are not limited to, so you can just buy more cartridges and you can do hundreds of markers if you want. All right, so the burden of I gotta send them, the doc has to come and wait for this big blood draw, we don't have to deal with that stuff anymore, right, because of things like that. How many of you have ever used something like a CGM, continuous glucose monitor? A couple of you, right? Cool. You all know we can do that. At this point in the talk, everyone's entered what is going on? My head is spinning. But you all are familiar with CGMs, right? Use them or not. You also realize we can do the exact same thing with all these markers as well? I can stick you on a continuous lactate monitor right now. I don't need to get you on the bike and poke your ear and have you bleed all over the place and get this one time. I can give you on a CGM for weeks with lactate. We do this with all of our athletes who cut weight. I'm measuring at all times in real time exactly their sweat rate and their sweat content. I know exactly how much sodium, potassium, chloride they're losing at all times. I don't have to get all the gear off of them, get them on the scale and be oh, you're this weight, fuck, we're over, gotta go back on. I'm just watching on my phone going, great, another ounce, great, another ounce, done. On weight, champ, we're done here. And now I also know exactly what to put back in them. I think that thing costs $112. Again, you see my point. These are not $30,000 things that only $600 million athletes are using. By the way, next year there'll be the launch of those exact same things without the needles, patches and cameras. Most of that can be done with a camera now, and pretty soon we'll be able to do it on your watch with the LED cameras that are be able to shoot in through your watch without any invasion whatsoever. I've already seen those technologies. I've used them. They're just not commercially out yet, and they need some more validation. Some of you may saw a couple years ago, Abbott announced this already, and so you can get this, a single sensor that does alcohol, ketones, beta-hydroxybutyrate, if you care about things like that, and lactate. Again, available on the market 3 years ago. So it's been around. So as we kind of circle back to this one, how are we doing on time? I'm not exactly sure what time we started, what time we stopped. How are we doing? Okay. Gonna be a little longer than 5, but okay. He said 45, copy it. We'll be done at 45. All right. Imagine this. Imagine all the testing you did for your clients was just this. You sent them to a local doctor, they did their blood pressure, BMI, and then you came back and did all your strength training programming based on that. That'd be pretty silly, right? You would never do something like that. Imagine the opposite. Imagine your physician was all right, great. Yeah, no, you're fainting a lot, you don't feel great, and you maybe had a heart attack. Let's get you over to the lab, let's get you on a force plate, let's do a vertical jump, and then we'll determine what medication you go on. Be pretty ridiculous, right? How about this one? My back hurts. Great, stretch your back. Keep blowing out hamstrings. Gotta strengthen those hamstrings. That's exactly how you all are doing blood work. Right? You're not any better at it than those things are right there. If you are not at a very high level with biochemistry, you shouldn't be using and analyzing and interpreting blood work for people. It's the exact same thing as those bullet points. You don't know what to test. You don't know how to interpret it. You don't know how to compare it, right? You're using the wrong databases. You're looking at a database from old, fat, sick people in Haines, and you're trying to then make judgments about your athletes and high performers. And then most importantly, that slide is all way off, but that's okay. You grossly underestimate the complexity in interactions that come along with things like blood work. So let me show you. When you all read blood work, you don't really read blood work. You read blood work like my kids read. You look for colors, right? You pull up the thing, first of all, you go right to testosterone, because that matters most, right? Check that number, whew, we're good there. And then what you do is you look for greens. If it's green, you ignore it. If it's red or orange or yellow, you take a look at it. Are we being honest here? That's exactly what you do, right? Cool. Well, what determines green or red? Here's what it does. In the case over here, you're using what's called a reference range. So if it's below or above that reference range, you get a fancy color. Reference ranges work like this. You are in the 95th percentile in that reference range. So some of you can probably see this, but look at C-peptide. C-peptide's yellow, right? That would catch your attention. C-peptide's reference range is 1.1 to 4.4. I'm gonna get super technical here, but it doesn't matter. Here's what this means. If you are 1.2, that would be green. If you are 1.0, that would be yellow. 1.1, you would go right on by it. 0.2, lower, you're freaking out about your C-peptide. Here's what that really means. 1.1, you're in the 93rd percentile, or 3rd percentile. Or you're in the 2nd percentile. So you determine to take action whether or not you're in the 2nd or the 3rd percentile. Either way, any of you think you're keeping your jog if you keep all your athletes in the 3rd percentile? And I mean bottom, not top. Gone, right? I don't want my physician or my strength coach to be like, oh, that vertical jump, you're in the bottom 4th percentile, but we're good, no worries. Like, no. Like, no chance is that okay with me, right? Well, that's what they're doing. Same thing on the top end of the spectrum. And so you can see the percentile rank there means 95% of people are going to be between 1.1 and 4.4. If you are above 2.2, which is half that range, by the way, we see all these things already starting to happen. Increased risk of cardiovascular disease, oxidative stress, and blood glucose dysregulation. And you would be smack in the middle of that reference range. You'd be as green could possibly be. I could go on and on for days about this stuff. Same thing with blood glucose. I promise you, even though 99 is a reference range, if your athletes are having fasting blood glucoses at 95, we have problems. And it's probably not a carbohydrate problem. Almost never. Right? They don't need to fast or do any of that other dumb shit that people say. And so really technical, I know you don't get this, but I'm making a big point here. Albumin is my favorite marker. It is on every blood test. I promise you in the break, if you pull up your blood test, you'll have albumin. And I promise you it's in the green. Nobody pays attention to it despite the fact it is, in my opinion, the single most important blood marker in the entire world. It will always be green. Here's why. It only goes below 4 or above 5 in a couple of particular situations. It will always be in that range. But this is what it means. Optimal for men and women is about 4.5 and 4.7 for men. If you get to 4.8, I know you have problems. That subtle of a difference in albumin tells me something. I can then go cross-reference and say, okay, great. If your sodium, hemoglobin, and hematocrit are all elevated, I know you're experiencing acute dehydration. You didn't drink enough water that morning. No big deal. However, if I see those 3 markers are off, plus albumin is trending high, 4.8. Not even outside the reference range, just a little bit high. I know this is now chronic dehydration. So no more than like, oh yeah, coach, I didn't drink enough water that day. No, you didn't drink enough water the last 21 days, which is exactly what that told me. Okay? Smack green. They'll be as green can be. Okay? Here's math for you. I know it's been a long, fiery talk this morning and it's early. But math wizards, help me out here. If I'm dehydrated and my albumin goes up, and I'm inflamed and that takes my albumin down, where is my albumin going to be? Smack in the middle. That's why your albumin is always on point. Now, if you were out at dinner last night, didn't drink enough water because it's hot as hell out here, you had maybe a couple of old fashions because Bo made you do it, and you're a little bit dehydrated and a little bit inflamed this morning, what's your albumin gonna look like? Perfect. Despite the fact I am clearly inflamed and dehydrated right now. This is exactly what causes this. You ever had this one happen? I don't feel good, brain fog, energy, headaches, recovery's not there anymore, energy's low. It's gotta be testosterone. Or, we looked at it, your labs look fine, because you don't know what you're looking at. You have no idea what you're looking at. There's so much magic right in front of your face, but you have no idea what you're looking at, right? I could do the exact same thing, by the way, for something like mean corpuscular volume. Pull up with B12 or B6 deficiency, pull down with either inflammation or iron deficiency. You know what that is on the chart? That is a female athlete. Bingo. And what would their RBC look like? Or mean corpuscular volume? It would be perfect. But they wouldn't be feeling perfect. And it would be right in front of your face. Now you might think, great, we're gonna start checking B12. Well, the reality of it is B12 on your blood report tells you nothing about their B12 status. Magnesium on a blood report tells you nothing about their magnesium intake. That is 99% of your magnesium is in your bone. It's not in your blood. So the blood means nothing. I promise you right now, you take you go get one of those Myers cocktails, you come back in a week, your B12 would be 2,000 plus. And you could still be B12 deficient. Because it's not telling you what actual information is inside your cells, which is what matters for B12. Who cares about serum or plasma? Your labs look fine. Right? I could go on and on and on. I get this one all the time. Super inflamed. Based on what? How do you feel? I feel great. We looked at one marker, like C-reactive protein. That's what everyone loves to look at. Fine. But if you didn't look at things like ESR, blood lipids, LDL specifically, blood sugar, I have no idea if you're actually inflamed. In fact, I could do the opposite. It's because your CRP looks fine, but your blood sugar is a little high. You're lean. You don't have type 2 diabetes, but your fasting blood glucose is always 95, 96. A little bit high. LDLs are always elevated. Vitamin D is always down, despite the fact that you're a golfer and you're in the sun all the time. Yeah, you know why? That's inflammation. That is inflammation. You go figure that thing out and watch. You know how many times we've taken vitamin D away from people and their vitamin D levels skyrocket? Because it was really not there. It was an inflammatory marker. Okay? I keep going. But here's a quick thing you can do, right? If you looked at something like ESR and CRP, you could differentiate. Are you inflamed right now and been inflamed for a long time? Were you inflamed a long time ago, but it's now currently gone? Or were you never inflamed and now you're inflamed right now, you just trained really hard? What that matters is the bottom point. If you have something like that where ESR is high and CRP is low, that tells me you used to be inflamed, you're not anymore. I don't need to give you anti-inflammatories. Why is that a problem? Anti-inflammatories will inhibit strength adaptations. So you're crushing all your athletes with vitamin C and curcumin because this marker came back, and you're just stopping any adaptations. That's why I said earlier, if you don't really know what you're doing with biochemistry, don't fuck around in this area. Right? You're gonna mess things up. Did it change? You went and got your testosterone checked, and it's 50 points higher. That means nothing. It is incredibly unstable. Iron will change 20 to 30% in a single day. However, if you see HbA1c change by 30%, something very significantly happened. You might go to the hospital, right? So you have to understand markers that move a lot and markers that barely move before you can actually interpret pre and post training. So to kind of wrap up that point, and we're so over time, it's Bert's fault, right? Okay, appreciate it. I'll cruise through some of this stuff, though. I am going long here, I'm sorry. One thing he told me on the phone, he's like, just don't go long. I was like, cool. First talk, we're already behind the schedule. All right. But this is why people don't get value for stuff like this, is they go through these experiences, right? You either take it to like the medical staff, no offense, MDs, love all you all, but they're trained for a different thing, right? Trained for the disease thing. And so they come back, they look at the labs, or you look at the labs, and you're like, we're fine. And we go through that whole, and then you know what the athlete or the client feels? I just gave you $500 for this. I got nothing out of it. If you're in a pro sport, professional athletes, you get that last bullet point. Hell no, I'm not letting the GM see my blood data. Because that's coming up in contracts next year. No chance, right? There's a ton of issues you have to have there. So unless you're giving them real value, they're not gonna wanna do it again. So I'll ask you all this. How many of you have had blood work done in the last 2 years? Great. How many of you feel like you got tremendous value out of it, you made significant changes to your programming and feel significantly better because of it? Not a lot of hands left, huh? This is why. there's so much there if you know what you're looking at. But now you wonder why your athletes are going to push back against it. Now you wonder why your coaches and staff are like, why are we paying for this again? Like, well, because nothing's actually happening out of it, and I don't really blame them. Right? The second thing is you try to treat markers that are really interactions, and here's what I mean. If your vitamin D is low on a blood test, you can take vitamin D. That's fine. The marker itself is the solution. But for most of the things happening in your physiology, that is not the case. For example, every single blood test ever will come with sodium. If you come back on a blood test and your sodium is low or trending low, do not give them sodium. You're going to create a huge amount of problems. So sodium being high or low is telling you overstress, over fatigue. It's not telling you anything about your diet. Your sodium concentrations in your blood has zero to do with the sodium intake in your diet. So now you went out and gave them a bunch of sodium. You could potentially kill them. You're probably not going to kill them, being dramatic. But you're wasting their time and potentially causing other issues, right? So you have to understand when the marker itself is the problem, or is this a systemic response that has another solution area, okay? I could go on and I could do this one, but I won't. You get a testosterone test and your testosterone is low and you think the solution is testosterone? It could be. I'm all for it. Take testosterone if you want, but if that was your first stop on the journey, it's down for a reason, and it's probably pretty fixable. My athletes can't use it, so we have to solve that. Every single one of our NFL players increased testosterone in the season last year, every single one. And we can't use any synthetics or peptides or anything like that. It is simply correcting physiology, getting out of the way, and letting it get back to where it wants to be, right? This is the platform we use, we build. You don't have to use it. I don't care. I'm not here to pitch you anything. But the reality of it is we are the first and only blood work done for high performance. This is exactly what we specialize in, because all that stuff I just spit out to you guys is really complicated, right? You have a very hard chance of getting it. So we break everything down by categories. You're not just going to get the markers, but you get categories: sleep, recovery, micronutrient status, inflammation, all that broken down for you. On the right-hand side, you can click any tab there, and you can see what exact marker is causing that problem. And it's all going to tell you the reference range you should be in for high performance. So all this stuff is done for you. You can then go in there and create custom solutions. So in this particular example, hey, it's green tea extract. How much do I take? When do I take it? And then what exact markers it's going to impact. If you want to click right there, all the peer-reviewed papers are right next to it. This is why we're taking it. Here's the evidence. Here's the research. So all done for you there. If you coach people, you can have all your athletes on a dashboard. You could do all the ordering for them. That's what we tend to do. Like, they're not going to go to order. It's like, we'll take care of it and get it all ordered up for them. So that's how we handle it, because this stuff is complicated. You want to order panels through us? Fine. You have your own data, and you just want to upload it and run it through our software and run all that analysis and stuff for it? Great. You can do that for a fraction of the cost. All that stuff is up and available for you at a really cheap price. So I'll finish here on the last one, and this one is pretty short, and then I'll show you guys something fun at the end. If I were to ask you all, kind of like the big three pillars of human health, right? And you say, like, nutrition and exercise. And then what would probably be the third one that would pop out of your mouth? Sleep and recovery. Fantastic. How about sleep? Boy, here we go on this one. I don't need to show you the data, but bad sleep does a bunch of bad things for athletes. You're talking about severity of concussions, frequency of concussion, length of recovery, so on and so forth. Everything is affected by even mediocre sleep. And you spend so much money having 25 strength coaches in the room and 16 athletic trainers and 2 dietitians, and you spend 0 on sleep. Oops. Right? Oh, you want to see injury rate? How about that? Talking about over a 75% chance of injury when you sleep 6 hours a night, and that drops to less than 20 when you get sufficient sleep. You want to cut injuries down? Sure, do all the prehab exercises you want, or just get them to sleep. Like, we're done here at that conversation for the most part. 61% reduction in injuries. 61% reduction in injuries when you sleep more than 8 hours. Tell me anything you do in the weight room that gives you more than 61% reduction in injury rate. I'll wait. Good luck, right? So this is by far the biggest performance enhancer that we know of. You realize 80% of clinical sleep disorders go undiagnosed. In this crowd in particular, that's probably even higher because just the physical size of the human beings in this space, right? It's a nice way to say it. Not calling anybody any judgments. Athletes, that number is over 50%. If you pulled every one of the athletes in your room, more likely 50% of them have a clinical sleep disorder. I'm not even talking about suboptimal, maximal performance. I'm talking legitimate clinical sleep disorder. And you've done nothing for it, right? Absolutely nothing. Bad sleep does all this stuff. Sport performance directly, there's data from Division I basketball. You're talking about a 7 to 9% improvement in free throw shooting percentage, three-point shooting percentage. On-field sport performance, massive improvements. Again, tell me a single dose of creatine that gives you a 10% improvement on the field. You won't find it. It doesn't happen, right? It doesn't exist. It's not even close. And so we have so much room to go there, and we do almost nothing about it. And this is why, right? From a testing perspective, we give them a $300 wearable ring, or we send them to a sleep hospital. Neither one of your athletes are going to do this. Right? Either I don't have a budget for all that stuff, or, hey, coach, we tried it. We bought auras, we gave them to everybody, and the kids won't sleep. We're not wasting our money anymore. Well, sure. Imagine I said this to you. You know what? Kids keep getting hurt and they're weak. We tried that strength and conditioning thing. We gave them a PDF and told them some exercise tips, and they just didn't get stronger, so fuck it, we're not spending any more on strength conditioning. Well, sure. No, you don't do that. You have a giant weight room and you spend millions of dollars and you bring people in and you make that a huge part of their face. And guess what? Still, some of them don't lift weights or whatever, right? But you wonder why they have adherence there. And then when you get to sleep, it's like, hey kids, all right guys, you got to get to bed earlier. Didn't work. Yeah, stunning that didn't work on a 19-year-old, right? Like shocking that approach didn't work. And then also the solutions. It's like Ambien, CPAP, or here's your handout on sleep hygiene, right? No offense, but I coach people that are playing right now, right? Not far from here, PGA Championship. We have over $500 million in contracts in many of those players per person. You think the best we can do for their sleep is an Oura ring? Come on now, right? There are better solutions out there. No offense to Oura, we love Oura. Right, so AI can help you a lot here. This is, again, not to pitch you here, do whatever you want with sleep. For God's sake, just get better at it. Put some emphasis on it, right? But what we have done here, and I hate this part, I was actually talking to Bo last night, I'm like, I don't even want to mention our companies. It's like, you have to. Like, people want to know what you do. So, okay, fine, here it is. It feels awkward, but here you go. So we have the ability to run a full clinical grade sleep study on people every single night from the tip of their finger. Same advanced technology you get in a sleep hospital can be done every single night for pennies on the dollar. In fact, you'll never have to go to a sleep hospital ever again. We can run all that stuff you would see there. You want full EEG measures, you want little electrodes. We don't have to put wires everywhere. All that technology is way behind at this point. So we can run people through all those things. And this tells us exactly why, or exactly how they're sleeping. Now, if any of you do some sort of sleep tracking, fine. But by all means, throw away the sleep staging information. Don't measure and look at your Oura ring and look at how many minutes of deep sleep you got. Throw that completely out the window. If you want to look at total hours, cool. You want to use it just to check in on your people, great. But under no circumstance should any of you be coaching based on REM or deep sleep time on a tracker or wearable. I can't make that point clear enough, right? Tons of other good use for it. If you want that information, get a real system, right? Understand what's really happening with sleep. We then come from behind and we measure why they're sleeping that way. Remember earlier? What's happening and why it's happening. If I know why it's happening, now solutions are very specific and simple. We had a Major League Baseball player, had moderate apnea, felt super tired all the time, didn't actually officially qualify for technical sleep apnea, moderate apnea. Well, one of the things we actually noticed is it was all happening when he was on his right shoulder, his pitching shoulder. So we bought him a $15 backpack, like a reverse fanny pack. that he wears at night. Keeps him from sleeping on his right shoulder only. Sleep anywhere else he wants. 90% reduction in sleep-waking events in night 1, and never came back. Like, we don't need incredibly deep therapy. What we need is precision. And when we have information about why things are happening, we can create precision. So we measure everything. We measure their environment. We measure their physiology. We're measuring their blood and saliva, and we're taking cognitive assessments. We're doing retinal tracking and a whole bunch of information there, and we can figure out, is this previous concussion related? Is this alcohol use? Is this behavior? Is this light? We can actually measure very specifically melanopic light, that frequency wave, in their room. So we run around their whole room scanning all their light bulbs and everything else. And you know what that allows us to do? Sometimes they don't have to make any behavioral change. They don't need a 90-minute routine. They don't need to do breath work. They need to simply switch out the type of light bulb they have, because that was causing most of their sleep-waking circadian rhythm problems, and now 80% of the problem goes away. Solutions can be very, very simple. Some of them need 6 months of therapy, sure, but some of them need really simple solutions when you have the correct amount of data, right? And this is actually, we just got this paper published. There's about 9 very specific factors in the environment you want to pay attention to, but I promise you, in all your people, if you just clean that up, a ton of things get helped, all right? And this is nice because it's passive. They don't have to make any changes, which is the hard part with clients and athletes, right? They don't have to do anything different, they just get better. Here's what I'm talking about. The CO2 in this room right now is causing all of you to have brain fog. All of you are breathing out CO2. There's not a ton of ventilation in here because it's not designed for 700 people. And so CO2 concentrations in this room are rising. There is extremely clear data. Oh, I should have brought it. Oh, damn. If I would have had my environmental scanner, I would have showed you right now. When CO2 levels get higher than normal, there's a linear positive correlation between sleep onset latency, how long it takes you to fall asleep, and CO2 concentrations. CO2 levels in your room go up, you will lay there and not be able to fall asleep, and you'll have no idea why. Right? It also is linearly negatively correlated to arithmetic, next day memory, and word recall. You're going to leave this room stupider. One way or the other. Okay? So it's simple stuff like that, right? Again, I hope I've highlighted a bunch of different things. I know you can't do all this stuff. Use my companies or don't. I don't really care. Many of you can't afford it. But there's lots of solutions out here that can be had if we just spend a little bit of time thinking about some of this technology stuff. So that's kind of where we started. Hopefully, again, I gave you some information. I got a few things to say before we really get out of here. I want to emphasize this point number 1 at the very bottom. You guys will never keep pace with technology. I won't either. It's not the job of a strength coach to know every piece of tech ever created. It's a bad use of your time. Just trust technology will get better. I don't know how to evaluate lots of information, what's good, great, terrible, fine. But this is the thing I really want to hammer on. You still all hold the keys to the kingdom here. All these fancy technology companies, 60 million into athletes, and they don't know how to coach anybody. None of this technology matters without you coming in and saying, well, this is what I would do to fix that problem. You told me the problem, that's great, I didn't know that, but you don't know how to solve that conditioning issue. This is this program you should do. So you all have so much value now and will continue to have value, and I believe coaching will be one of the highest, most premier things in the world as we move forward because of this exact problem. You can run all the digital stuff you want, but if you've never done it in a human, you have no idea what to actually do. So there's a ton of value in your career moving forward. I hope that brought the energy back up a little bit to be like, okay, maybe I won't transfer into business econ next semester. All right? I need to thank my team at Parker, Dr. Federica and Zoe, my grad students. We have a really cool study going on right now. Any females, all that sleep stuff, you can do it all for free. Actually get paid to do it. So females, we're tracking super high fidelity sleep every day across the menstrual cycle, so we can start seeing what actually happens with sleep across the cycle. So would love help. Come talk to me about that if anyone's interested or has 18 to 35-year-old female friends that want to do some cool science anywhere in the world or anywhere in the US. You don't have to be in Parker with me. As I mentioned, this is something we're building. This is a 64,000 square foot brand new human performance center that has some of the most advanced technology in the world, and that's coming right to the heart of Dallas. So we have master's programs in person and online. Come work with us, come join our team. We're gonna get Bo up there one of these days. I keep threatening him, but he won't come over and hang out. So a little bit of a pitch there. And I'll kind of end back where we started on this one. I know this was a lot. I wanted to overwhelm you on purpose. You'll have some more informative and tactical talks here soon. But it's a cool field to be in. It's really fun, a lot of positive stuff. And I'll give you a little bit of a hint of what's happening here.
It's about never-ending questioning. That's what true innovation is that you never stop asking the next questions. It's about looking beyond the curve into the future.
How do I get you to know how to learn easier? How can you see more things faster? I'm going to show you crazy stuff you've never seen before. This box is just that first thing, an experience that pulls you in, challenges what you thought about yourself and about what space and light and things can do in front of you, and then allowing you at the end to take a peek at that snapshot and understand how your unique profile matters.
It's about forging ahead down the pathway towards human potential. Being able to actualize the best, largest opportunity.
What's possible? It's just what our imagination, our creativity can think of. That is the only barrier.
It's about helping to create the future.
Thank you, man.
That was awesome.
Appreciate it. I'll be around all weekend. I don't know if
Yes. Well, that's first of all, who's seen the Terminator? All right. Do you feel like John Connor just came from the future and told us the things that are coming? That was amazing. And you'll be around all weekend.
Yes, sir.
And the part of a lot of these speakers, the point is to give a great conversation, but also enact great conversations the rest of the weekend. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yep.